5:45, and after a slightly frantic afternoon, evening, and morning trying to catch up on all the edits I didn't get done while we were on the trail, we are about to portage back out to the river and get going here. We only have about 73 more miles to go till we're to the Gulf, so we don't have too far. We are expecting about 2 days-ish, but we shall see. Why are we late? Taters can't shoot a basket. That is why we are getting out of here. Woohoo! Even more importantly, our boat appears to not have been stolen last night. We have to walk about 0.4 back, and we have 10 plus gallons of water on us, so we're probably gonna have to take 2 trips to manage this. And oof, leaving the air conditioning is kind of rough. It did feel nice. The heat rash wasn't hurting at all, which is something after days of feeling like I have fiberglass under my shirt. Unfortunately, since we're going straight back in the heat, there really is nothing to do about it. We're just gonna have to deal with it for the duration. As I mentioned, the water here is somewhat questionable. We actually were hoping to fill up down by the boat launch, but turns out it's just not safe out of the taps anywhere here. Everybody uses bottled water. High levels of arsenic, plus there are some sewage-related sort of issues going on, it seems like. We were saved by having a river angel who was very, very nice, find Jen, and then bring over about 10 gallons of water for us. See, we got things like the cooler and the extra water jugs and figured, no big deal. We were not gonna be having to portage much, if at all. And then we have to do things like this, like go off the river. This is partially why we avoid going off the river. And we are back and sweating already. So the mileage on this section, there is no correct set of coordinates. So Dennis and I had to figure out our own, mostly Dennis. It is 141 miles from Old River Lock, and now for this section, it is basically 73 more to get to Burns Point on the Gulf, and we are taking something called Hogs Bayou rather than going out the main Atchafalaya at the bottom, because it's smaller and supposedly kind of similar to those canals at the end of the Swanee that we like so much. The last bit before Burns is open ocean, but it's not too far. Tom and Jackie finished yesterday, and we heard from them. They didn't have any issue. And I mean, this boat is super solid. Our kayaks, I might worry about flipping, but this thing. And then Burns is basically this campground that has showers, everything else. We can get cleaned up, and our ride out of here is going to meet us there. We don't have anything too solid as far as the schedule, but we're kind of figuring get to Burns on the 8th, and our pickup is arranged for the 9th with the usual proviso of things can change. And like I mentioned before, basically as soon as this one finishes, I am CDT bound, and I've got another 1,000 plus miles to through hike. So that's why we were kind of making an exception and doing a stop this close to the end, which we normally avoid. At least we've been enjoying the pre-dawn only 80-degree weather with like 300% humidity. Taters will be talking by about 11 o'clock when she wakes up. 6:30, which is about 30 minutes past when we would prefer to be out here, but it is what it is. All the early morning starts have had me so far behind on the videos that basically Jen went to bed last night and I was up for another, I don't know, hour and a half just trying to catch up. And then I think most of the night I was like, oh, I need to do this, oh, I need to do this, and kept waking up.
Oh man, you're working too hard.
Yes, working. That's what people call being on your phone, just working. Also, in other exciting news, Taters is very excited about this news. We are officially done completely with Uhtred, The Last Kingdom. And it was never the best show in our opinion, and it got pretty damn bad by the 5th season. And then that movie was a lot of, really? They're doing that? Okay. That's a choice. All I can think is Ryan George should really do, pitch meetings on that. Because the story needs to happen. Yeah, pretty much. I do hear the Saxon Chronicle books are far superior, and I do like Bernard Cromwell's other stuff. The Winter King is one of my favorite trilogies ever, or Warlord Chronicles. Basically, it's a more realistic take on the Arthurian legend set in actual historical Britain. So now the big question is, what are we going to be watching while we are sweating our butts off tonight going, why the heck are we out here? This is why the South rose up, to try and get out of the South because it was too damn hot in the summer. I think that was the case. Jen, don't play poker. Your disapproval face. Yeah, we're probably going to try and do Strange New Worlds because I've gotten her on some Star Trek. And she really is excited for the musical episode.
Yes.
Actually, we're more excited for the fact they're crossing over with Lower Decks, which is, if you are a Star Trek fan and you have never seen Lower Decks, it is the greatest like love letter to Star Trek fandom that I have ever seen. And I still shake my head when I read people on Reddit and other things bashing it, going, is it Star Trek? What? That is a completely accurate representation of online fandom. Next, let me tell you about the Disney Star Wars movie. And welcome back to the tyranny that is the burning ball of hellfire up in the sky. So after we finished dinner and Uhtred, I went in the bedroom to go work on all the videos, and I left Netflix on. There was something called like Wild Babies that followed a whole bunch of like cute baby animals trying to survive in the wilderness. So I'm working on trying to get all like the heat wave videos done, and all I hear is her like giggling out in the main room. Then she runs in and she's like, oh no, the baby elephant is going to get swept away in the current. Don't worry, he didn't. He did. Spoilers, but he did. We kind of missed them, but there's another gator right by that log. Most of them have been off in the distance. We're not seeing any of them on the shore because it's too hot per the locals. So they are around, they're cool to see, but we're not overly worried. Most of the time it's just like that. They're moving, and anytime we get close, they'll just disappear under the water. I did a lot of looking into it when I was in Florida, when I was setting up for the Florida Trail, because obviously they got gators there. And the most reliable thing I found was they're ambush predators, so watch out right around sun up and sundown. Try not to be at the edge of the water, kind of splash around with your hands, making it seem like you're a small animal, because then they could inadvertently strike, expecting it to be a small animal. So I basically changed how I filtered water. That's when I got my sea knock. We're actually seeing a lot of them this morning, more than we've seen since Old River Lock. But it's hard to catch them up close, and we just had 2 of them fairly near the boat, but by the time we got the cameras out, it was far too late.
I have already lost track of how many gators we've seen. At least 30, 40. Mostly we're seeing them swimming, but we've also seen them diving from shore down into water to try and hide from us. And sometimes they just pop their head up right next to us. One just stuck its head up about 3 feet away from Matt. Took one look at us and dove right back down with a big splash. And it's really exciting getting to see so many of them. The only other time I've seen anything like this was when we kayaked through the Turner River in Florida. And there they didn't seem very shy at all. They were just sitting up on logs right next to us and would just watch us go by.
Town days have their advantages. Well, at least for the moment, we have a breeze. Unfortunately, it is a breeze going 180 degrees in the wrong direction, but meh.
So in the last few days, we were seeing tens of dead fish all over the river, and pretty much no gators, maybe 1 or 2 if we were lucky. Today, we have seen tens of gators and not a single dead fish. I'm not sure if the 2 are related. I didn't think that alligators ate things that were already dead, but if it's a coincidence, it's been a very striking one. The coolest ones have been the ones that are sitting on the shore in the shade. We normally don't pick them out until they move, and then once they move, we just see them for a split second, and then we see the big splash where they jump in the water. We're also seeing a good number of ones that are just poking their eyes out of the water and diving back under.
This is kind of similar to some of the sections in the headwaters. We haven't seen anybody or even seen any indication anybody is around. So we're not 100% sure what these are, and we haven't found anybody out here to ask, but I'm guessing they're fishing huts. Like they have an opening on the inside so you can fish while staying in the AC out of the horrendous humidity and heat. Kind of like ice fishing huts. He's right there on the shore with his head up. Gator footage? So there has been a distinct lack of campsites back here. You can see the vegetation on the shores just is not suited to camping. Now, if we went back into the jungle, we might be able to make something work. The 1 or 2 times we've been on shore for just pee breaks and other things, it hasn't looked overly good. So at the moment, we are making for a DNR, Department of Natural Resources campsite up ahead. We have a list of all the ones out here. Most of them are not on our route though. This is a giant swamp that has camps all over the place, and they don't necessarily stick them along what has become the source to sea kind of standard route. A little before 8 o'clock and we're back in the main channel now, around mile, I think 35 or so. There is supposed to be a DNR campsite at that island you can see up ahead, so we're aiming for that. Just gonna try and get in before the mosquitoes get too bad. I don't know what it is, but it gets hotter this time of night. Literally, the sun, you just switched with so much satisfaction there. Literally, the sun went down, it was nice for a little while, and then you just feel the temperature bump up. When we're in the tent by this time, this is usually where we're sitting there watching TV, and all of a sudden I just start sweating from everywhere. So this is what's listed as the DNR campsite. We're trying to get close enough to the coast, you know, we're 30, 40 miles in. I don't know how far the tides come in this section, but it looks like this is probably going to be us. We'll tie up the boat, and then worst case, we get a little wet and we can manage to take down the tent if the tide hits us. Not quite the nicest camp for what might be our last night out here, but it'll do. And we officially waited too long to get into the tent. Damn it.
Woohoo! Really enjoyed today. For me, at least, it was my favorite day in the last few weeks. Super different than the last week or two of paddling. Main thing was the gators everywhere. We saw over 100, I'm sure, gators, with even more that were probably swimming right below our canoe that we would never know if they were just a little bit under the water. Super cool seeing them all over the place. Also had the vegetation change. More diverse, lots of different types of plants on the shore, and some with really pretty orange and white and purple flowers. Now that was the day. The night is a little bit rough. Camping spots really sparse out here, so we headed for one that was marked on the map as a DNR map, and it's not much. It's basically a pole marking that you can camp here. There's some flat ground up in the trees there that has hordes of mosquitoes and kind of a little bit uneven, lots of sticks and things to clear, so we opted for the nose of the beach, where we are pretty sure we are above the maximum water level that it would get, and the mosquitoes are a little lighter, but they're still pretty bad. These are the worst mosquitoes we've had since Minnesota. Now they have one major thing over the Minnesota ones, which is that they only come out at night. There was not a single mosquito out while the sun was out, which inherently makes them a lot more manageable, as long as you can manage to get to camp about a half hour earlier than we did. And we were paddling all day and just barely made 38 miles or so. It's been pretty still water, so so that was all us. And we'll see how it goes tomorrow, but we potentially just have one more day to get to Burns Point. Home sweet home for the night.